Hi, today we will be discussing the anatomy of the eyeball, both the interior of the eye and the exterior of the eye. For today's purposes, we're going to begin with the interior of the eye. As I open this model, you will notice that inside are multiple letters labeled, along with two rather large nodules. And if you turn, you can see that the nodules protrude. These nodules are merely part of the anatomy of the model, not the anatomy of the actual eye, and so we will not actually be discussing these. They just hold the eyeball model physically together. They like lock, and then your eyeball is solid. As you begin to look inside this eyeball, you'll notice that there are multiple letters already there for our demonstration purposes. I will be discussing these letters as well as more information so that we get a full picture of the interior anatomy of the eye. I'm going to start with the letters and then move on from there. I'm going to start with letter A. As you can see, it is right here on the outer edge of this eye, and it is the cornea, the clear front, thin, outer protective layer of the eye that refracts light to help the eye focus and covers the iris and the pupil. The curvature provides the major refraction of the eye. As you move on to B, you'll see that it's right here. It's this green area. It's the iris, the colored portion of the eye that contains the pupil. It contains the amount of light entering the eye by expanding and or contracting around the pupil. This is where dilation is typically done at an eye exam. It's also one of the parts of the eye most used to describe a person. For example, this person would, because this iris area is green, have green eyes. As we continue on, we're going to talk about C, which is this black portion right here, and it is the pupil, the round hole in the center of the iris through which light passes. The pupil ordinarily appears black because there's very little light coming from the dark chamber behind it, because it truly is a hole looking down into a dark hole. Behind the pupil is the lens, this large white area here labeled D. It is a transparent structure in the eye that focuses light by changes in its curvature. It bends and focuses light entering the eye. It provides secondary refraction after the cornea and is located behind the iris. Iris, pupil, lens. The next thing I'm going to talk about is this red area right up here. It's actually up here labeled E, and it's actually down here not labeled at all. And it is the ciliary body or the ciliary muscles. These are the muscles that control the focusing of the eye by causing the lens to change shape. They allow the lens to roll up and get thicker, to bend to the light more for better close-up vision. These often become brittle with age, and bending becomes more difficult, which is why reading glasses are often needed in advanced ages of life. Next, I'm going to talk about F, which is a little bit hard to see, so I'm going to try to bring it up nice and close. And F is the suspensory ligaments, and they sometimes are referred to as the zonals. They're at the top and the bottom of the lens. They're long, thin fibers which connect the crystalline lens to a ring of ciliary muscles. From there, we're going to back up and talk a little bit about G. G is this white ring all the way around the eye at the top and the bottom, and it is the sclera. It's the tough, white, fibrous outer protective layer of the eye, most commonly called the whites of your eye, and it is also another pretty common part of the eye that can be easily identified. From there, I'm going to go to this pink, thin pink line. Let's see if I can get it up there and focus. This thin pink line that goes all the way around the eye, all the way around the back of the eye. And it's labeled H here, and it is the choroid. It's a layer between the retina and the sclera, consisting primarily of blood vessels that provide nourishment to the retina. This particular part of the eye is of personal interest to me. It's where most eye professionals believe that my son's vision issues occur, or the root of his vision issues. From there, we're going to talk about eye, which is right here in the middle of this eyeball. And it is the vitreous, sometimes referred to as the vitreous body, sometimes referred to as the vitreous humor. It's a clear jelly-like substance that fills the posterior segment of the eye behind the lens, and it supplies nutrients and gives the eye its actual shape. From there, I'm going to go to J, which they have up here. It is actually the orange layer around, and it is the retina. It's light-sensitive tissue that lines the back chamber of the eye, which contains the nerves cells that receive light rays, the light rays that enter the eye through the pupil and convert these light rays into electrical impulses, which are relayed in the brain through the optic nerve. From there, I'm going to talk about K, which is this little dent right here. It's the center part of the retina that sees fine details and allows the eye to perform tasks like reading. It's often an oval yellowish area surrounding the fovea near the center of the retina of the eye, which is the area which we have the most keen vision. It is considered the center of our vision field. From there, I'm going to talk about this little yellow disc right here on the back of the eye labeled L, and it is the optic nerve, better known in layman's term as the blind spot. It's the place in the eye where we have no rods or cones that form the entrance to the optic nerve back to the brain. From there, we're obviously going to talk about all of these back here, all of these bundles, which are the optic nerve. The optic nerve is a bundle of fibers that carries all vision-related impulses from the retina to the brain. In the next video, you will notice that there are more stickers so that we can talk about the additional parts of the interior of the eye that are of importance when understanding the anatomy and physiology of the eye. We're now going to continue on with the interior anatomy of the eyeball. And as you can see, I have added a few sparkly stickers around so that we can discuss more parts of the inner eye that are not labeled on this particular model. I'm going to start with this green right here. It's usually kind of a layer outside, not on this model, so I just kind of stuck it to the edge. And it is the conjunctiva. It's a clear membrane that covers the front of the sclera and also lines the inner portion of the eyelids. From there, I'm going to go down to this little yellow one right here. Try to bring it close so you can see. And that's the trabecular meshwork. It's a filtration band circling and adjacent to the outer rim of the iris. So it's adjacent to this outer green rim, where fluid flows through before it enters the system through the canal of Schlemm. And the canal of Schlemm is actually what I'm going to talk about next, and I made it red for this purposes. And it is a circular canal that drains fluid from the anterior chamber of the eye into the ciliary body. It's sometimes called Schlemm's canal, and an interesting fact about it is if it is blocked, it can be a major cause of glaucoma. As we continue around, up here is a blue sticker, and it is the ora serrata. It's the area of the inner eye where the retina ends and the choroid layer of the eye can be seen. It's up in this area, and it's not very well labeled on this eye. As we go down, I put a sticker here kind of in the center, this silver sticker, and it is the aqueous humor. It's the watery fluid that fills the interior segment of the eye and provides nutrition for some of the surrounding parts, mainly the lens, and it creates the eye pressure, which is kind of an interesting concept. The very last piece I'm going to talk about is actually, I've labeled it right back here, and it's brown little sticker. and it is the fovea centralis. It's a small, thinned out area of the retina consisting almost exclusively of cone receptors, which gives high visual acuity. It is also something that is typically seen in an eye exam when a intensive eye exam is done. So from here, we will go from the interior of the eye to the exterior of the eye, and we will be learning more about it as we continue on to the next segment of this video. Now we're going to take a few minutes and talk a little bit about the exterior of the eye. The interesting thing about the exterior of the eye, it is predominantly made up of muscles. The extrinsic eye muscles are any of 6 small muscles that control the horizontal, vertical, and rotating movements of the eyeball. Starting at the top of the eyeball is the superior rectus. It's located at the top. It rolls the eye in an upward motion. Directly on the bottom is the inferior rectus, and it rolls the eye in a downward motion. If my finger, stay together eyeball, if my finger is my nose, this muscle here is the medial rectus, and it rolls the eye along the horizon to the middle of the face or the head. And so therefore this muscle would be on the exterior, and it would be the lateral rectus, and it rolls the eye along the horizon away from the nose towards your ear. There are a couple of muscles that are not on this model, but they're pretty important. So again, if this is my nose, there is a muscle that sticks out right about there, and it is the superior oblique, and it rolls the eye down when it's turned towards the nose. And on the bottom of the lateral rectus, there is an inferior oblique, so it would be located down here, an inferior oblique, and it rolls the eye up when it's turned towards the nose, again, with my nose being here. These muscles work in conjunction with one another so that you have lots of range of motion with your eye. These muscles also are considered to have some difficulties when a person is diagnosed with nystagmus. And that is the exterior extrinsic eye muscles of the eye.